Hi, everybody. We are the Family Looking Up podcast. I'm Camille Ward.
I'm Beth Millward.
And I'm Andrea Nielsen.
And we're here to talk to you today about shame and how there is no shame in motherhood.
Yeah, so on our podcast, we always do our interviews like this. We have the three of us talking together, and so for us to just do a lecture just doesn't feel natural. So we're just going to have a conversation. Today we're just going to talk about how there's no shame in motherhood. So we just want to talk about kind of the first thing we need to do to not feel shame is to just accept who we are and accept who we are as mothers, the good, the bad, the ugly.
And we all know there's more bad and ugly than there is good in
Yes.
any given day with
Absolutely.
children. The ugly is usually all over the walls, especially in a bathroom.
Oh, bathrooms, we shouldn't talk about it,
No.
honestly. So kind of to kick off, we have a great quote from Brene Brown.
Shame is the most powerful master emotion. It's the fear that we're not good enough, because true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance.
What is shame to you, and what are you feeling so shameful about?
Okay, so I think that this is really important pertaining to motherhood. We live in this picture-perfect society. We all love Pinterest. We all love social media. We see the best of the best. We see everyone's game face. And the problem is that nobody has their game face most of the time. So we see 5% of the time in people's lives, and we associate that with our 95% of the time. And because of that, we feel ashamed. We feel ashamed of how our kids look, ashamed of their lack of fill in the freaking blank. It could be anything. Their lack of ambition, their lack of cleanliness, their lack of perfection. And we associate that with ourselves. And because of that, we then begin to feel alone in our mothering. We feel sad and depressed. We feel all the bad things.
We feel failure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We beat ourselves up. When in fact, we're doing great. We're killing it.
Yeah.
But instead we have this completely fake perception of what we should be, and we cling to that and let that drive how we feel about ourselves. And so it manifests as unhappiness. It manifests as always feeling like we're drowning under the pressure of what we ought to be, the 5% of the time.
Yeah. And it's about like being our imperfect selves, right? I think sometimes we think, well, we'll feel better when we do it great.
Right.
That's not true. We'll feel better when we just accept that's how we do it.
Yeah.
If you're a naturally organized person, then great. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a naturally unorganized person, then great. You're amazing. And I think we keep forgetting that. We keep looking for all these things that will then make us feel like we're good enough. And really, we just need to realize we're good enough because we are us.
Sure, we're pinning our I'm good enough on some future date when we get our crap together. That's what we're pinning it on. And unfortunately, that is going to go on throughout our entire life.
Yeah.
If that's how we're living now, we're never going to feel like we can feel fulfilled and good about ourselves in our imperfect state.
Yep.
Because that never changes. We might get better at organizing, or we might get better at disciplining, or we might get better at this, that, or the other. But we're always going to have parts of our life falling apart.
Sure.
Well, and we have to also consider that we might be able to get ourselves back together, but we're dealing with a whole nother beast when it comes to our kids. Like we can't control. They have their own decisions. They have their own likes and dislikes. Mm-hmm. And so when we are trying to base whether or not we're good based on how everyone around us is acting, we're always going to feel like we come up short on that too, because we can't control everything that happens.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about us. Okay, so what are we going to do about it? How do we fight the battle of shame that we find in motherhood?
I think we just get a Diet Dr. Pepper.
Okay.
We go hunker down in bed and just say, I'm out. Oh,
I got it right there.
Oh my gosh, I love
I
you.
showed up for this with my Diet Dr. Pepper. You bet I did. That was not staged.
Oh, it wasn't. It was just perfect.
That was just real life.
So, yeah.
And I actually really needed a drink right then, so I really appreciated you giving me
anytime. I'm here for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we feel like we want to do, right? Sometimes we just want to like hide in the shame, like don't post anything, because it might not look right. Don't say anything,
or go clean your house so you can post.
Right. Yes,
right?
Yes. We do all of these things, and we just need to stop. And one thing I think we're great at here at the podcast, and one thing we really encourage is just being willing to share. Just say what's happening that you're so ashamed of, and it's so much better. So our first tip is to be willing to share what thing you are feeling bad about, and then accepting other people's thing that they share with you.
Yeah. This is how we bond together, and this is how, as mothers, we support each other in understanding that we're all in this imperfect mess together.
Yeah. So I guess like the first thing with that though is it takes vulnerability to say it out loud. You know, we were talking just the three of us earlier about how often we go to like a lunch or something together, and you say something, you think you're the only one that has done that until you say it out loud, and then 5 other people at the table are like, oh,
Right.
I totally did that. You know, so you think you're alone until you say it out loud and realize you're not alone at all. Like everyone has said that.
Yes.
You were just the one that said it out loud first, which does take a lot of vulnerability.
It does.
It's not
Right,
always,
right.
some personalities are different too. For me to say something is not really difficult. But for other people, like our friend Andrea here, it may not come as naturally for her to just spit out the thing that happened, or
So there it is.
thing she's embarrassed about, or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, I think it definitely boils down to different personalities, which that makes me think of, you know, I think it's so important. Moms need other moms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to feel like you're not alone. You need to find your people. But how do we find our people?
That is a tricky thing.
Mhm.
Wait, so I just moved. It's been 2 years ago now. Like I had my people in my town. I knew my people. They were here. Then I moved. And it's true. All of a sudden it's like, oh, who's my people I can call? I can call my friends in my previous life. But you want people there with you that you're like, you're my person I can come to when this happens. You're the person I call to come save the day. And I really think a big part of that is just start to actually speak up.
Yeah.
And you watch their reactions when you say, once I have so many horrific things
Right.
I've
I know
done.
we could go on
I can't
and on.
even think,
Yeah.
like, once I pushed my kid out of the shopping cart, the people who laugh, I'm like, okay, you're my person. The people who are horrified, I know. That's okay. You're not my person. We're not going to understand each other. Or, you know, they give you a parenting tip that to you is like, no, I would never do that. Then you just kind of know, like, that's great. That works for you and your family. That doesn't work for me. We can still be friends, but you're not going to be my person.
I grew up with a mom who was like as vulnerable as it could get. She just put everything out there. And I found that as I've tried to do that I have had far more people really appreciate it than not. Obviously, you can put too much out there.
Yes.
You know,
let's not be that person.
Right. We all know that person. Let's all think of them right now. And then
A moment of silence for them.
We're not shaming them.
No.
We just don't want to be them. So, you know, there is an appropriate amount, obviously.
Yes.
But I think that as we're more authentic with ourselves, that we find those that resonate with that. And then that's when we really find those close friends.
Yeah.
And we can appreciate that about each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the first one is we need to be willing to share, and you need to find, moms need to find other moms. You need to find your people that you can share with and you feel comfortable being completely vulnerable with yourself. Accept your mistakes and be willing to share them.
Yeah.
Yep. And be willing to share other people's mistakes.
Yeah, be willing
Accept-
to listen and accept them and not be like, you did what?
Yeah.
What does your microwave look like? Ew.
Yeah. Has someone said that
I
to
would
you?
never do that. Maybe.
Maybe they have.
Maybe I'm quoting people.
I
I'm
don't
not
care.
shaming them, but I'm quoting them.
Okay, next thing we encourage everyone to do to help get rid of the shame is to just bring in the humor.
Yeah.
Replace the shame with the humor.
This is our favorite.
This is our favorite because
Yeah.
I feel like in every situation you have two choices. You can cry about it and you can feel horrible, or you can laugh at the ridiculous thing that just happened. So I think, you know, we've had several episodes where like really serious things are happening,
Yeah.
but you find some humor in it, or just ridiculous stupid messes and honey and flour and all those
Right.
things are happening, and you can be furious, or you can like don't let the kids see you laugh. Obviously, some laughter needs to be kept to yourself when they say the naughty word.
Right.
You act mad, but then you go and laugh your face off. Like call your husband and just laugh about it. And how much better it is
Right.
to laugh.
There's this classic story of my mom. So my mom, like I said, was just fantastic at turning situations from the horror show into the comedy hour. And one of these, I think that she did this so well. And this is such a great thing to learn how to do. It takes practice for all of us to learn this. But the things that are the most vulnerable sometimes can become the funniest. And so she was going to a doctor. She was trying to lose weight. She ended up going to her sister's wedding. She had a very, very non-funny doctor. That's a really important point to make, who did often do things like shame. And so she went, and she had eaten some cake, and she had not stayed on her plan. Well, she came to the next appointment, and he had her get on the scale, and the scale went the wrong way, and there was this silence as he stared at her. Now, if I were in that situation, I would feel like punching him.
I would feel like crying. Like
I would just be like, who are you to judge me?
Yeah.
I just had a baby, right?
Right.
I think moms would react with either tears or anger.
Yeah.
Those are the two
Or shame.
most...
Shame.
Right.
Yeah.
Or shame, right?
Or
Yeah.
apologize.
Exactly.
I'm
I'm
so
so sorry, I'm a
sorry,
pig.
man.
Yeah, exactly. But my mom kept her eyes straight forward and said, the serpent beguiled me and I did eat. It's just brilliant. It's such a tribute to her. He started laughing his head off. And instead of this thing being something where she came home and cried to her husband and was just so torn up about it, it had turned into one of the funniest stories ever.
Yeah.
And we can use humor like that as we practice this technique of taking a situation and saying, would this be funny if it was someone else? Or would this be funny in a different light? Maybe I can start laughing about it.
Well, like when we interviewed Jenna Kim Jones in episode 119, she had two questions. Her interview was about bringing humor into motherhood. And her two questions were, what was the intention of the thing that was said?
Like if a kid dropped flour everywhere, was he doing that on purpose or was he a 2-year-old?
Yes. Did
Yeah.
they
Was
say
he
something
trying to
be
ruin my
mean,
life?
or did they just say something hilarious
Right.
because they didn't know better?
Right.
And would you laugh if it happened to someone else, like you said? And I think those are really good things to keep in mind just when you're going throughout your day and you want to get all wound up and stressed and you want to hide. Someone stops by and you're like, I'll open the door, everyone lay down and pretend like they're asleep. That has happened once.
I've done that.
Only once. Just like, don't brag.
A day.
Because they're going to see the mess. Yeah, once a day. And just something to think about to bring humor in are those two questions.
Yes. And people like us, we should always be laughing at ourselves because the true answer is, if this happened to someone else, would I laugh?
Oh.
Every time.
In their face.
So
I would laugh.
we don't have an excuse, right? We always have to laugh
Yeah.
when it's about us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not going to change the situation.
Right.
So just because we laugh about it, it's not going to make a really bad situation any better. But it does help us to cope with the situation better.
Right.
And some things you think, well, that's just not funny. I mean, some things are really sad, but we can still find moments in that to help us to cope by laughing about it.
Yeah.
And so that's the point of it. It's not being like, sometimes I think we even feel shame about, well, if I laugh about it, people are going to think I'm not taking it seriously.
Yes.
Or I'm not a good mom because I found this funny that this happened. But I think we can still use that, find those funny moments in those situations, and that will make everything seem better.
I was just going to say, I think one of the main reasons why we don't laugh at things is because of that fear, like that shame. What will they think of me? What do they wish I would do? We start questioning all these things. And
We're supposed to be serious.
Right.
Yeah, and it goes back to your own vulnerability and accepting yourself. If you think it's funny, then think it's funny.
Right.
It's okay.
So one experience that happened to us that I think follows right along with this is that we had a really scary experience where we thought that our daughter, who was about 13 at the time, we thought that she had a tumor that was cancerous. And so we were told to rush her up to the nearest children's hospital, and they rushed her in and got her in for surgery. It was terrifying. It was horrible. She'd had a cousin that had had this kind of cancer, and so we really had reason to believe the doctors all thought that that's what it was looking like on the ultrasounds. And so then we had to wait through this surgery, and we're sitting in this waiting room, and we're just beside ourselves. And my husband said, here, take one of these earbuds. We're going to listen to Jim Gaffigan. And I thought, what is wrong with you? You are
Heartless.
the worst.
Heartless.
You are the worst dad that ever lived. What are you doing listening to Jim Gaffigan? And what he said to me, I'll never forget. He said, listen, Camille, We have prayed all that we can pray. We have gotten her to the best hospital. We have gotten here as quick as we possibly could. Now, we have to sit here and we have to wait. That's not going to change. But if Jim Gaffigan will help us get our mind off of this horror show, then that's a great coping mechanism, and I'm going to do it because you look miserable.
You look horrible, honestly.
And so then I was a little shameful. Like, are people going to hear us in here laughing? Like, our daughter's in for cancer surgery, and we're like, ah! But so we kept it down, but it really did help us get through it. And then we had a happy ending to the story when she actually didn't have cancer. It was some random weird thing. But the point is that humor was a great coping mechanism in a situation that you wouldn't normally think, well, that's funny.
Yeah. No, it's true. Okay, so the last thing, and in my opinion, the most difficult thing, gratitude.
Everyone tells us we need to have gratitude.
Everyone tells us. It doesn't matter what topic we're talking about. Gratitude seems to be the answer. We resist it. We resist it fully.
How does gratitude help with shame?
Well,
let's say I'm shameful about my dishes, or I'm shameful about the fact that I haven't brushed my daughter's hair in the summer more than once a week, or whatever it is, right?
It's generous.
Yeah, it's generous. Or shameful that my kid watches too much TV, or shameful that I should be a few pounds skinnier, or whatever it is that we think we feel shameful about. Yeah. How does gratitude help with that?
I think gratitude puts everything in perspective. So I think I think one good little trick you can do is you can play the game of it could always get worse. Like what could happen that would be worse than this? Yes. And I think sometimes you think, well, this is as bad as it gets, but oh no, it can always get worse.
Now some people say this game makes you a pessimist. Others
we don't like to think
it
that
helps you be more grateful.
Yes.
This is the gratitude think game. Like with the kids though, right? It can get really silly. Like, okay, you have to do homework. Well, you might have to do homework while sitting on an elephant in Africa. That would be more difficult.
That would be worse.
Or, like let them imagine and put it in perspective. And for adults, I think it is good to think like, well, this is horrible. Our tires are flat, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I actually have the money to fix them.
Right.
Yes.
Right? So like I
have dirty dishes because I have food to eat.
Yes. Right. Just kind of putting that positive spin on it and just realizing that there's a lot to be grateful for. My daughter's hair hasn't been brushed. But look at all that beautiful hair she has that hasn't been brushed.
And once we brush it out, it's going to be gone. So enjoy it. But it really does help you to say, it really is a process to learn how to feel good about yourself, to learn how to not have shame, to learn how to feel grateful. It's a learning process. It's retraining our brains. And as we say, this is the worst, then we literally believe that this is the worst.
Yeah.
That we really talk ourselves into the idea that we are so unfortunate, that we should be so ashamed, that all of these things. But if we can start to say to ourselves, how could this be worse? Oh my gosh, just take your clothes off, then it's worse. Like that easy. How could doing dishes be worse? Well, the windows have to be open and I have to be naked. Now it's worse. It's so much worse, right? Be grateful for clothing. Be grateful for all of these things.
Like those kids. So I think it is just your whole life is better if you can feel grateful for things.
Right.
And I'm here to say that is not easy.
No.
I am the queen of not being grateful. So nice to meet you.
My name is Beth Millward, and I am ungrateful.
I took off my crown.
Beth.
You know what? I love this quote though. Andrea, read it. You're our reader today.
I'm the reader? Okay.
Yeah.
She's the only literate one.
Enjoy the little things because one day you may look back and realize that they were the big things, which I think is motherhood. I think motherhood is a whole bunch of little things, and sometimes those little things you feel like they're going to kill you. Those little trials, those little moments with your little kids, but in the end, those are the things that make a lifetime. They make the motherhood memories.
It is true. And when you said that, you kind of sounded like a grandma that we all hate.
I just barely was thinking that.
Enjoy every moment. Every moment.
It's not untrue.
Yes.
It's not untrue.
No.
How many times do we remember those, like it was the annoying, messy, terrible things, that you remember. And if you ended up being really positive about it or laughing about it or retelling the story, isn't this terrible situation so much better when you retell it?
Oh, yeah.
I love, like, when something awful happens, I literally am texting these girls like, I can't wait to
My
tell you
whole life is built
story.
on that theory.
Yes.
Literally, if that's not true, there's no point in me living.
Yes.
Because
It'll make
it's
a great
true.
story.
It
Yeah.
will
You
make
gotta
a
look
great
at the situation
story.
and think, this is gonna make a great story.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you tell your kids that story, then they remember and they're
Yeah.
like, Mom, do you remember the time blah happened?
Yeah.
It's like,
Or
oh,
tell us
yeah.
again about the time that
We
I
all threw
spilled
up.
chocolate pudding all over the wall.
Yes.
Like
Right.
those moments that were so
Yes.
aggravating at the time, you're gonna be grateful for them later.
Yes.
true.
Amen,
It's
Grandma.
true. And I think the whole point is, as we are able to understand that we are flawed, when we're able to accept ourselves right now, like Brene Brown said, right now with all of our vulnerability and all of our flaws and all of our problems, this weight is taken away, the weight of shame. Shame doesn't do any good.
No.
Shame makes us feel like we should hide for things that it's normal. And I think that so often shame is used in society in so many ways that's unfortunate. The more that we're able to understand that we are fine right now, we are doing good, we're doing our best, then we have a weight leave, and that weight leaves our family as well.
Yeah.
And we're able to be a happier mom in the moment. We're able to learn how to use some of these coping mechanisms to get rid of that shame, to be a happier mom, to be a more accepting friend. And in turn, we're more accepting and happier with our kids. And that's what all of us want. All of us want to have that feeling that we're really okay. And that's what this is all about, is learning how to shun the shame, which is kind of a funny thing. But we believe in shunning the shame.
So I think it's just, like, we are working on it. None of us are perfect at this. We all feel bad about things all the time. But these 3 little things can just make it a little bit better. Just being a little more grateful, being willing to, like, laugh at it and then share it with others so that we can all be in this together. Moms need moms. And this vulnerable state and sharing these things is a great way to do that and be there for each other. So thanks for listening. We hope that you enjoyed it.
And if you'd love to hear some really great examples of hilarious mom fails to get you in the mood to tell your mom fails to your friends and make new friends, head on over to familylookingup.com, where every year on Mother's Day, we do a mom fail special. And we have all of our listeners call in. So moms call in and they share their great mom fails. And it is a riot to listen to. It makes you feel like you've got this thing. You're on it. You're in with all these moms. And it makes your fails even funnier as well. So head on over and listen to those. And if you listen to podcasts, you can find us on any podcast carrier, Family Looking Up, or at our website, familylookingup.com.
Absolutely.
All right. Just remember, moms, we love you all. Just remember, you are good enough where you are
Right now.
Right now. And just keep up the good work.